Hello, everybody, and you're very welcome to the stream. We are live on F1 TV era. Yes, they said it couldn't happen. They said it would never be done, but here we are, live and with video and hopefully audio and everything else. And I think we are live, ladies and gents. So thank you very much. Well, nobody's quite tuned in yet, but if somebody does, there's a thanks in advance for yourself. Man in there now, sit down and enjoy the old stream. So, where are we this weekend? We are in Zandvoort, if you can believe it. We are in the Zandvoort Grand Prix 2021. So, if you were listening to not if you're listening to the podcast, but if you were into F1 the last couple of years, the last couple of seasons, you would have known that Zandvoort was obviously announced a couple of years ago. I think it was like 3 years ago. It originally got postponed because of COVID. It was supposed to be here in 2020, but it wasn't. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that the race got delayed a year, and obviously the new regulations that were supposed to come into effect, that are still known as the 2021 regulations. So basically, when Zandvoort was announced, it was supposed to be the new cars here, and it was supposed to be a track that was going to blow everybody's minds. Of course, we still have the same cars from the hybrid era, which are the current cars at the moment, and these are the cars that are going to race in Zandvoort this weekend. Of course, qualifying is today. The race will be tomorrow. Please join us tomorrow for the race if you can, if you're free, if you like audio commentary. If you like a change from Ted and probably Nico tomorrow, or Martin Brundle, depending on who's commentating. I do like Nico. I have to say, I really like Nico commentating. He's very good. Brings a different style into it for sure, and overall an interesting bloke and very easy to listen to. So the situation today is better than last week, obviously. Last week we had very bad rain in Belgium, which caused the race to ultimately be whitewashed. And well, it wasn't a whitewash because there was a race. There technically was a race, and because the organizers, the FIA, ran the race a couple of laps behind the safety car. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that half points were awarded, but the fact that half points were awarded benefited Max Verstappen massively. He was able to close the gap, and I'm not sure if he's ahead at the moment. Let me just check that. Blip, 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 blip. Incoming results. Okay. The reverse. He's only like a point or two in front. Sorry. Okay, so Hamilton is 3 points ahead. I thought the Red Bull would have been ahead there, but Hamilton is 3 points ahead. 202.5 points for Hamilton, with Max Verstappen at 199.5. Nearest to him is Lando Norris, who has done fantastically well this year, we have to say, and has been doing fantastically well since he joined F1. So it's about just over 15 minutes before qualifying will start. So obviously Zandvoort is a very interesting track due to the banks and pretty much every corner is banked in a certain sense, and there's curves and crests and stuff like that. So a bank is when the corner is turning like that. If you don't know, it's kind of like almost like a roller coaster kind of shape. The outside or the inside of the track will be higher, and the outside or the inside of the track will be lower on one side, and that makes it obviously slightly slanted and hopes to promise some epic racing. Crest is what you would hear a lot in F1, or sorry, you would hear that a lot in rallying, because crest is basically, I'm not sure if crest, I think it has a couple of different meanings. Crest is basically when you're going over a surface and there's a change in the surface, or you're going over a point where you can't see further than the top of the corner or the top of the crest, and then you go over the crest, and then you're in the, obviously you can see the next part of the the next part of the next part of the track in front of you. So a lot of crests on this track. Charles Leclerc had a small off there during practice 3, where he basically went over the corner and had to run wide. Went over the crest in the track and had to run wide because he couldn't see in front of him. He didn't know where the track was going to go. So I know that the if you're watching this and you're annoyed by the aperture adjustment, or not aperture, let's try to sound smart there, and I sounded wrong. Exposure is what is on the camera at the moment. So basically, the exposure is the way the light will change. If I, you see, it's kind of changing, and that's just because I need to buy a. You know what I need to buy? I need to buy a USB webcam, because that would make things a lot easier for me streaming. But I'm using my phone at the moment and a third party software, so I'm afraid I can't. Well, I can lock the exposure, but I think it's a lot darker then. Is that okay? That's okay, isn't it? I think. Okay, so that's probably better. So the sound, I hope, is okay. I can't really listen to it obviously while I'm streaming, but I did a couple of test streams there earlier on, and hopefully this will be you. Hopefully you'll be able to listen back to this. I understand the the video might be a little bit stoppy and starty, but hopefully the audio will be nice and straightforward. So, with practice behind us, what have we learned? Well, the track is certainly interesting. The track is promises to uh, promises to be somewhat more um, dangerous and stuff like that. I guess I'd imagine that there's probably going to be a red flag. I mean, there's been a red flag in practice, and as the lads on Sky Sports were saying earlier, the uh, the yellow flags here are kind of pointless because the track is so skinny and stuff like that. So it will be very difficult to basically continue in a situation where you have an F1 car sitting on a track, or it'll be impossible to continue racing basically if any cars go off today, because it just will. It's very difficult track overall in terms of what you can see, what you can't see, in terms of the the corners and everything else. It just wouldn't make sense to have a car on the track in a position where other cars could hit it potentially. And it's not that like that for every corner here, but it is for the vast majority of the corners. I'll get it up, the map of the Zandvoort track. Just give me one moment. I've got a little bit of a slow laptop. I'm sure people can relate to me on that one. Zandvoort track map. I believe it's corner. So straight is there. So it's a corner Hans Erst Botch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think it's the 10th corner. The 9th or the 10th corner. Oh, I have another one here. That's the line. The 12th corner. I apologize. The 12th corner. So the 12th corner on the track is called Hans Ernst Bocht. And basically, it's a corner that comes down. You're going quite fast, and you have to turn to the right. But there's a big sand pit out in front of you if you don't make the corner. And in the F3 race today, Quite a few drivers did that, and as well as that, also Mick Schumacher had a slight off when he was practicing earlier on today. So not fantastic if that happens, because if that happens, what it means is it's going to drag a load of pebbles and dust and everything else onto the track at that particular corner, which obviously it's a corner that leads onto a very fast part of the track. So getting a good launch out of there, getting a good launch out of the corner and being able to accelerate is very important. So it could be quite difficult depending on how many drivers go off the track at that part. If they do, which it's very possible they will. So 6 wins and 6 pole position starts for Verstappen this year so far. Pretty impressive stuff from him, if you agree. Looking like about 10 minutes here until we kick off. George Russell's being interviewed after his great second place last week. Obviously, a lot of people think that the race shouldn't have been classified because it wasn't a race as such, but as we know now, it's gone ahead. But as George Russell said himself earlier, you've got to be there. You know, you've got to be there at the end. You've got to be in those positions where you can take points when there's mad stuff like that happening. So fair play to him and fair play to Williams. They did a brilliant job, stellar job there on Saturday for qualifying. And George obviously did the best job when he was in the car out on the racetrack. So very good for him altogether. And what could he produce today in a track that's unpredictable and new for everybody? You never know. He's got as much chance as anybody, in my opinion. So hopefully it'll be good to see him maybe get into Q3 again, possibly do well in Q3. The likes of the Haas's are probably going to struggle around here, infamously. Obviously, Alonso, or sorry, not Alonso. I was just reading up there. So the Haas's are new. Obviously, they're rookie drivers this year. Sonoda possibly will struggle also too, but he has somewhat a better car, quite a good car, for this year. But of course, it's going to be a difficult excursion and adventure for him this weekend. So the other big news is Robert Kubica is taking up the 77 car this weekend because Kimi Räikkönen has tested positive for coronavirus. So I'm a little bit of a Kubica homeboy. I liked him back in his days at BMW, obviously, where he was really, really good. Had a very good start to his career there. It was a mad time. BMW, Toyota, and stuff like that were the ones that were fighting for the lead. They didn't win a lot of races, but they fought for podiums, which was very interesting and a very exciting time in F1. So it's doubtful that we're not going to have a red flag or something like that today. I'd imagine we're going to have a lot of drivers getting very angry at each other, and I'd imagine we're going to have a lot of drivers getting in each other's ways, because that's the beauty of the beast with this race. Unfortunately, it takes the top of the top drivers. These drivers are going out here today on a track that's probably one of the most unique tracks that you're ever going to race on as an F1 driver, in terms of the elevation changes and the banking and stuff like that. So it's hard to predict. But I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it because it's the first race in a long time, first qualifying session in a long time that's going to be straightforward in a sense of weather, but not straightforward in the sense of everything else. The race tomorrow will be very interesting. Will there be places to overtake tomorrow? Again, it's unlikely that there'll be too much overtaking based on pure speed, but where you might see the overtaking is on exit of corners where cars have to get a good launch. Perhaps on the straight would be you would imagine would be the most common place for people to overtake. But again, that straight is very tight, and you have to get the exit extremely good if you want to be in front of the car that you're trying to overtake by the end of the straight. So then you got a very difficult couple of corners after the start finish line where a driver could come back at you if you overtake him. So you never know. It's really, really all to play for here. I'd imagine that there will be some overtaking. I was watching the F3 race earlier today, the race 1 in the F3, and it's not like they had a lot of overtaking, but they were driving pretty fast, fair play to them. And when you're driving like that, it's hard, first of all, to overtake, but it's also quite difficult to just even race. You're racing flat out, and these guys were racing flat out. So there was definitely some interesting lines taken by a couple of drivers, and one driver in particular, I think it was Dennis Harher, and he was very brave around the outside at one point, which was really, really interesting to see and very positive altogether. In terms of racing. So Zandvoort qualifying is moments away, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 4th of September 2021, if you can believe that. The 4th of September, good God. We got a track distance of 4.2k, so not the shortest, but not the longest either. We got a DRS section. We got 14 corners to deal with. We got an elevation of just under 10 meters over the course of the track. So pretty mad elevation there in terms of a track that's in a supposedly very flat country. So what can we expect today? Another Verstappen pole. You would imagine. But as I look at the screen now and I look at the banking of the last corner, it's pretty intense. There's no other way to say it. It's pretty intense. And where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? What can we expect? I just have to do something here on the old camera there, if you don't mind. As I said, I'm using my phone for the camera. So unfortunately, I don't have any cool intro or outro music today, but we'll bear with that for now. We won't worry too much about that. We'll bear with that. So I have to get a screenshot. How the fuck am I gonna do this? I have to get a screenshot. How am I gonna get a screenshot? Did I get a screenshot? It's coming up. I think I'll go. I close that. Yes. Okay, we'll screenshot that and we'll go into the old Instagram, and we'll just put up on the old page that we're doing a bit of streaming. We got 1 minute and 36 seconds, folks, until the race will begin. So let's crack on with this. Sorry, not the race. Excuse me. The qualifying session. God, it's terrible having a slow phone, I'll tell you that much. So we're gonna enter one of these. I gotta edit this. Yeah. So Dan Ticktum has been pretty quiet in terms of where he'll be racing next year. There's talk now that Nick de Vries is one of the main people in the running for the Williams seat for next year, which would be interesting. I mean, Nick de Vries, F2 champion, obviously, Formula E champion, where it was actually Toto Wolff who said that Nick de Vries was a serious racer and that Formula E should be considered as one of the a serious motorsport. And then a couple of weeks later, he turns his back on de Vries and says that they're not going to take part. They're phasing out their program. So excuse me just for 1 second if anyone's looking for a commentary stream. Should I sing a song just while we're doing this? Going down to Warzone Town. Going down to Warzone Town. That's a song that you have to sing in the loading screens for Warzone because it takes 1,000,000 years for Warzone to start and load up, as you're probably well aware. Zandvoort. Vort GP. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to excuse myself to the restroom for 1 moment, and then we will be good to go on the F1 TV era commentary stream here for the Zandvoort Grand Prix qualifying session. Hopefully you won't be able to hear me pee, huh?
Williams, who are struggling, as is Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. Pierre Gasly doing quite well so far, but Yuki Tsunoda is having a bit of a troubled weekend so far. Let's see if we can get out of Q1. Carlos Sainz, they have just finished laser scanning, just a couple of minutes before the start of the session. They were still laser scanning the car to make sure that all the bits were in the right places. So I think we'll be expecting to see out no less than 5 minutes into this session, but we'll see what's going on. And finally, a quick line on Aston Martin. Lance Stroll 7th, Sebastian Vettel 8th in free practice 3 going into
Oh, God, hopefully that wasn't playing too loud because that is really bad. Yes, I want to play that through my headphones. Of course I do. Of course I do. Connect. Okay, it looks like we're back online, folks. And we have 15 minutes of qualifying 1 to enjoy here as it's a go for this first qualifying session. So what do we expect? It's Tsunoda the rookie. Tsunoda the rookie going purple in sector 1. Obviously, not too much to worry about at the moment. Just the beginning of the session. So the first, we had about 110s, I think, that we had yesterday and the day before. So you know yourself, it's again, it's all to play for. Tsunoda hasn't. Mick Schumacher has gone P1. Tsunoda has gone top now with a 111. 111 dead. So will Carlos Sainz's car be ready for the end of Q1? Okay, so we had a 109, which was matched almost by the closest time to Max's FP3 time was Bottas, but it was over half a second slower. So, you know, what exactly? Latifi goes top with a 111.7. So Not really on the pace yet, exactly. Uh, but not totally unexpected for the slower cars to go. Kubica's in the top three. He's a second off the pace at the moment, which is probably about 2 or 3 seconds off the pace of what it could be. You would expect that Verstappen is probably going to pull something particularly special out of the hat towards Q3, but in Q1, excuse me, he will also be looking to stamp down his dominance. So as we get ready now for Verstappen to go out and do his first push lap, we have Kubica, we have Sonoda, and we have Latifi making up the top three. I believe that's the first. Okay, we have Mazepin, who has managed to set a time 13 seconds over 13 seconds off the pace. So hopefully that was just his warm up lap that got timed, which I don't know why it would get timed if he had just left the pits. Obviously, a sea of orange close to the sea in Zandvoort this weekend. Lots of Max Verstappen fans out there in force, as there usually is. But of course, this weekend, probably 99% of them are going to be fans of Max Verstappen, members of the Orange Army. The Orange Army. So Verstappen goes purple in sector one, which is fairly obvious that he would do that. Perez goes purple. No time showing at the moment. Verstappen, Perez's time is purple. It's 48 seconds through the second sector, and Verstappen has just beaten that by 300ths as he goes through into the third sector. Bottas is green for sector one, not purple. 1 minute gone on this lap so far. Perez is a 1:10.7. Verstappen on his first push lap. What can he achieve here? It's a 1:9. It's a 1:10. It's a 1:10 dead almost. 1:10.036. Very decent result very decent lap there for him. Is that off the pace of his? Yes. So it's about. He's got another half a second in that car for sure. How that will extend to Q3, I'm not so sure. Probably even faster in Q3. Hamilton going almost matching Verstappen's pace there. Sets a lap about a tenth off the pace. Bottas 4/10 off the pace. Perez is slowly dropping down the order now from that first lap that he set. Gasly puts himself up in the top three. Vettel puts himself into the top 10 with a 1:11.5, about a second and a half off the pace there. Latifi's dropping down every lap. Leclerc gets a 1:10.4 on the board, which is pretty decent for Q1. Alonso, Ricciardo, and Ocon are all on their outlaps at the moment. Kubica is already in the red as he's 2.5 seconds off the pace. Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, and Sainz at the moment are all very close to that mark of about 2.5 seconds off the pace. We have Lando Norris looking to set himself up for a push lap now, making sure he has some clear air in front of him and doesn't have any distractions. Antonio Giovinazzi out in the 99 car, of course, has set a lap for 7th at the moment, where he is about 7/10 off the pace. Stroll, Russell, Vettel, and Latifi again, all about a second and a bit off the pace. Sainz. So Sainz has got out and he set a lap, so he must have his car repaired for qualifying, which is a brilliant performance again from the mechanics in F1, the unsung heroes from the Ferrari garage. I'm sure he will be very thankful, Carlos Sainz, altogether, that he managed to get out for this session after his F3. And it looks like Alonso is throwing the car around the corners here. And when you get the onboard, you can really, really see the bank. You can see how skinny the track is also. Somebody pulls out of the way there, and even pulling out of the way there is quite a difficult thing to do. Very skinny track altogether. Some corners you've got gradients falling down to the left where you're turning to the left, and sometimes you've got a gradient falling down to the right when you're turning to the right, which affects the car in a lot of ways. Affects downforce a lot. Affects things like slowing down properly, braking zones, things like that. So it will be interesting to see perhaps in 1 or 2 corners. I'd imagine maybe maybe like turn 6, turn 7, stuff like that could be somewhere that could be worth overtaking. Alonso pushes, and he pushes decently enough. He is 4 tenths off the pace so far in 5th position. Bottas is behind him about a thousandth of a second. Sorry, 100th of a second over that. Giovinazzi's holding a strong 8th place there, as the ones that would be looking to threaten him, I suppose, would be the likes of Vettel, Stroll, Ricardo, Norris, stuff like that. So Giovinazzi holding in the top 10 at the moment, but not exactly safe at all. Sonoda's going out for another lap after he topped the timesheets. He is in 16th at the moment, so obviously in danger. And unfortunately, Kubica is still sitting at the bottom there, 2.5 seconds off the pace. Very slow middle sector for Lando Norris. He's 4 tenths off there with a green first sector. He looks like he's on a semi push lap, obviously not putting everything into it, as he looks to secure a reasonably solid top 10. Probably put that car into the garage then for a little while. 8. He crosses the line and goes 8, so not exactly fantastic. Kubica's gone green in first and second sectors for himself. He's looking to beat Latifi for some reason. Oh, yes, because Latifi is the driver at risk. What can we have here from Kubica? It's a 1.9, it's a 1.10, it's a 1.11, and Kubica goes 15th with Tsunoda on an outlap and Latifi looking to push him away from that position. So Kubica, maybe it would be what a story that would be, especially for a big fan of Kubica like myself. Dzień dobry, co tam to all our Polish listeners. Jak tam, na zdrowie. So don't be worrying about that. Kubica obviously has a very. If you've ever seen pictures of his hand, it's basically half an arm he has. So Sainz is out in 18th at the moment, and he's just gone green for the first sector. So not purple, but probably you'd imagine. He has a little bit of traffic there, so possibly got a slight delay. You would imagine that he would be able to get that Ferrari around quicker than Robert Kubica can the Alfa Romeo. So Robert Kubica has a very injured right hand that he injured when he was rallying a couple of years ago, and basically a life-changing accident that completely, wiped him out of any sport for quite a while, and he's never really recovered. As Sainz takes the last corner, the banked corner, he leaves the banked corner at hopefully somewhere near top speed, as he goes 8th place, 5 tenths off the pace, but puts Vettel and Kubica into 16th and 17th in the knockout zone for this Q1 session. So yes, so Robert Kubica has a very injured and very disfigured, well, not very disfigured, I'm not trying to insult him or anything, but he has lasting effects from that crash, and he isn't really able to push a car, in terms of you would imagine, but let's see what he can do in this session. Obviously, the race I'd imagine is going to be very difficult for Robert, because the race is already difficult enough, and having that kind of factor of an injury like that is probably going to affect him in some way. But you never know. So it will be great to see him get into Q2 for sure. But the likeliness of that happening is very low when it's Raikkonen and Giovinazzi in the cars anyway. So never mind about Robert Kubica's injury, but also the fact that it's difficult for him to just get into the car and go out into the car and go and drive when it's not his car every week. He's not driving that car all the time. The car is set up for somebody else, different seat, things like that. Obviously, Kubica is the test driver, so they probably do have settings, and they do have a template of how they can set the car up for him for a situation like this. But again, the last time he really drove the car, I think, was Hungary. Unless he's driven the car since then, I don't think he has. But I'm sure he's doing a lot of simulator work and stuff like that. So where are we? We're 4 minutes and 10 seconds away from the end of Q1. The drivers at risk so far are, one of them is Vettel, who is in 18th place at the moment. He is going to be passing through the time detector for the first sector any moment now, and he goes green for himself. Mazepin, Kubica, as I said, Vettel, Mick Schumacher, and Stroll are all in the knockout section at the moment. Russell is the driver at risk, while Daniel Ricciardo is in 14th. Giovinazzi is holding on there in 13th, P13, and Ocon is P12. Lando Norris is 11th, and Verstappen is still at the top there. Hamilton has put in a lap that's just about 1/700th of a second off Verstappen, while Bottas is still about a 10th of a second off the pace. Gasly holding firm in 4th, which is good to see, which is really good to see. And Vettel gets across the line there for 12th. So it's a low 110. We have Russell gone purple in the first sector, green in the second. How can he improve his time? Russell goes 5th. Excellent stuff there. And that's what we need to expect from him. Lance Stroll in 17th place. Good exit of the last corner. 16th. It's not enough to get him out of the red zone for sure. So Vettel does a good job there of pushing the car up ever so slightly. George Russell does an even better job of pushing the car up there into 5th, a bit more than ever so slightly. So good props to him. I mean, the car is quite underperforming, underwhelming in its performance. The Williams, it's kind of sad in a way how a driver or a team can turn up and completely expect to not get any points or anything like that, or be anywhere near pace when you're in the race. The fact they have to accept that is a little bit it's very negative in terms of being a racer that's going out and trying to race, and you know in your head that, okay, I'm probably not going to get anywhere close to the finish, and I'm the front when I'm finishing, and I might be able to scrape a point or two if I really try hard, and if a lot of things go our way. But that's the nature of the beast in F1, and especially the nature of the beast the last couple of years. If you're not fast enough, if you're not anywhere near that pace time, you're going to be left behind and you're going to be slow, because obviously the Mercedes and the Red Bulls are very, very fast cars. They're a very, very well vetted team, both of them, and they're extremely fast on most race weekends. The gap has been closed, of course, by the likes of McLaren. Even Alpine will probably be somewhere in that race in terms of performance boosts. The Red Bull Junior team has also been doing very well lately, with the likes of Pierre Gasly getting very good results and being very close to extremely good race pace. So I think we're going to have Lando Norris. So we're going to have Ricciardo push now for a lap, his last lap. Hamilton, Bottas both on outlaps at the moment. Perez, Tsunoda, and Norris on outlaps. Mick Schumacher, Robert Kubica, and Mazepin are all on their outlaps as well. They are taking up the top 3 at the moment, while Ricciardo is in the bottom. Sorry, they're taking up the bottom 4 at the moment. That'd be some top 3: Kubica, Mazepin, and Schumacher. But they are in the bottom 3, while Daniel Ricciardo sits at 17th, and he's just gone green in his first sector. Stroll at 16th. Giovinazzi is the driver at risk. Ocon is heading out for another lap. Vettel is in 13th, so you never know. I mean, he's not exactly safe right now. And Antonio Giovinazzi has gone purple in Sector 1, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first on the F1 TV era live stream for the Zandvoort GP. Antonio Giovinazzi has gone purple. Probably, I don't know when he's... And Leclerc goes purple all around with the fastest lap of Q1, a 19.829. Sainz goes second with a 110, a tenth of a second off the pace, and Ricciardo finishes strongly there to put his car on 6th. Kubica is crossing. Giovinazzi goes 4th, and Kubica stays 19th. Sorry, Kubica doesn't stay 19th. He's still finishing his lap, and he goes 18th. Okay, unfortunate for Kubica there. Probably slightly predictable, or not predictable, but we expected that to happen. Tsunoda has finished in 11th. Perez is a fairly weak 12th. And for Q1, the driver at risk at this moment in time is Sebastian Vettel in P15. Stroll pushes himself up to 11th, and Vettel is out of Q1, ladies and gentlemen. While Ocon pushes in, Latifi pushes in. We have Perez at risk now. Lando Norris finishes P15, pushes Perez out at the very last second. Perez 7/10 off the pace, and he is out of Q1. While the only person that can knock Norris out is Mazepin, who I think is out on the track. Ocon pushed for 7th. Gasly as well. Okay, so big result there. Oh, Sebastian Vettel was knocked out, and unfortunately, there is a traffic situation that has happened already. There was a big jumble of cars. Sebastian Vettel was pushing. He had one Haas in the way. He had two Haases in the way. One Haas was trying to get out of the way of the other Haas, and it was a big old mess there in the last couple of corners. As we see, big names, Schumacher, Kubica, Vettel, and Perez all knocked out in Q1, ladies and gentlemen. We have a top 15 of Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Hamilton, Ocon. We have in 8th Bottas and Ricciardo. In 10th we have Gasly, and 11th Russell, 12th Alonso. P13, lucky number 13 for Stroll this weekend as he makes it through to Q2. And Tsunoda and Norris take up P14 and 15. We have turn 13 incident involving Vettel, Mazepin. The two cars, Vettel and Mazepin, will be investigated after the session. So a little bit of a grey cloud there over Mazepin's head, probably. Kubica, okay, again, what would you expect from him? Difficult to say, but I think more than likely we would expect him to not finish so well. Tomorrow will probably won't be the best day for Alfa Romeo, as they have had many good days in a very long time. Unfortunately, the excitement of the Zandvoort Grand Prix will probably not bring them anything else apart from excitement. So we have Q2 coming up, ladies and gentlemen, in a couple of moments. And if you're not aware of the qualifying format in F1, what I was talking there about the top 15 and the drop zone is you have the top, obviously you have 20 drivers and you have to decide the grid for the race. So on Saturdays you have qualifying. And what you do is you have Q1, which is qualifying 1. You have Q2, which is qualifying 2, and you have Q3, which you've guessed it, is qualifying 3. And what happens is you have a session and everybody goes, and the slowest 5 drivers are knocked out at the end. Then you go to Q2. Again, the slowest 5 drivers are knocked out. And then you go into Q3, where 10 drivers will shoot out to the side, the top, the first half of the grid, and obviously try and get pole position. So we're going to move into Q2 next, and thankfully no major offs in that part of qualifying. Obviously teams are going to be pushing now for Q2, and especially pushing very hard, pushing a lot in for Q3. So the likelihood of a red flag or a delay to the session is increasing, but hopefully it won't come to the latter stages of Q3. If it does, and if it does come in the latter stages of Q3, you would hope that it would come somewhere towards the middle, so that maybe drivers can have another chance to go out and do a lap, and we can have an exciting end to qualifying. Giovinazzi went very close there to getting some sort of a preliminary pole, if you can call it that, in Q1. Very decent lap. The pace at the moment is decent somewhat, but you would expect perhaps another second, maybe about 8 tenths, 7 tenths, possibly a second improved on the faster cars. Maybe Max Verstappen has something up his sleeve. A very deflated Perez. A very deflated Perez there, walking back to his garage. Obviously a pretty miserable weekend for him so far. Lando Norris managed to just keep his head above water there, so hopefully hopefully we'll have an improvement for him in Q3, an improvement from him in Q3. So Sebastian Vettel there had the first kind of almost major incident there. He had 3 cars in the way of him, and he had the 2 Haas's also, I think, trying to get out of the way of each other. Maybe another misunderstanding between them on what exactly they should be doing. And he almost went into the back of them. So had a somewhat decent lap there, knocked off the timesheets, and that he didn't get on the timesheets because he obviously had to slow down majorly for the cars ahead of him, and he couldn't finish his lap. So unfortunate there for fan favorite Vettel. Not a great qualifying session for him. Will he be one to watch in the race tomorrow? Let's see how Lance Stroll gets on, I guess, in the next couple of sessions, and maybe we can judge their pace in terms of how fast they can go around the lap, or how fast they can go around the track for a couple of laps, see if they have any reasonable race pace. We've seen it happen, the difference between the Aston Martins doing really well in qualifying and finishing well in races, and the difference between that and them going nowhere and not even qualifying at all. It's not a lot. It's a very fickle thing. It's a very fickle line, it seems to be, for Aston Martin. They do well some weekends, and then it goes all wrong the next weekend. So obviously consistency is key in F1. So that will be something that they'll be looking at getting down to a T. So Max Verstappen, ladies and gentlemen, has left the pits. He is on his outlap. Again, if you're not familiar with the term outlap, an outlap is basically the lap that you leave the pits, you go out. And of course, you're not really being timed because you're leaving the pits. So it's not exactly the fastest way to do a lap. So Verstappen is out on the track at the moment. He looks like he's the only driver out on track at the moment, and he looks like he's taking it nice and handy, trying to get some temperature into his tires and temperatures into his brakes. To do that, the reason that you would do that is you would put temperature into your brakes and tires so that there's more grip, so that the metal in the brakes and stuff like that, or the whatever materials that they use, they're up to temperature, so they kind of work rather than being cold and not being up to temperature, which means that they might seize up, or that they might not be as effective as they could be. Same with tires. Tires, a big thing. You need them in temperatures. You need them in a specific temperature range so that they perform well. And the tire performance is all related to how many laps a driver can stay out for, the wear, the amount of wear that they will get over the course of a couple of laps. Even if they're not in that particular temperature window, you could really fuck up your race entirely. So Verstappen goes fastest, obviously, in Q2 because he's the only driver that's done a lap, and even though it isn't his pushed time lap, he pushes through the first sector now pretty well. He'll obviously go purple. He's 200 kilometers an hour out of the third corner there already. Cars bottoming out there. We're going to see a lot of sparks here from the barge board. The barge board is on the left, I think, or is on the side of the car. Sorry, but there's also a ballast section underneath the car, which is where they put weight so that the car is up to weight and stuff like that. And that's often the part of the car that you see hitting the ground and sparks coming up. 44 seconds gone so far of this lap, as Max Verstappen is on the second fastest part of the track, where he goes about 170 miles an hour there. Final sector now. Final sector, pushing into these banked corners. Onto the final corner, the banked corner. Is he flat out? I think he is. And he pushes for a 109 dead almost. Not quite dead. A couple of hundreds in there somewhere. But Max Verstappen has gone fastest with a 109. So that's the benchmark at the moment. Russell is gone green, but no purples just yet, as he looks to be a tad far back as he goes to he goes to set his first lap. Okay, so he's about 600. He's about 6/10 off the leader there, Max Verstappen. Sorry, he's not. He's a second. Yes, he's a second off the pace there. So there's a top three of Russell, and Norris at the moment. Latifi drops down. Giovinazzi, Hamilton, Bottas. No, none of them have set a time yet, but it looks like Bottas is just about to set a time. The Ferraris are still in the pits, and the Alpha Tauris are still in the pits. Alonso and Ocon also in the pits in their Alpines. The top 7 at the moment are using soft tires. Everybody's on the soft tires. Probably everybody will be on the soft tires. And Giovinazzi's still in the hunt, obviously, for a decent position. Doesn't often make it out of Q2. And as you know, we're still in Q2 at the moment. So we're not going to be finding out the top 10 grid just yet. So Antonio Giovinazzi still has a little bit of work to do there for sure. Not exactly a Saturday specialist and not exactly a race specialist either is Antonio Giovinazzi. Some people say he is a starting specialist. He has a great number of overtakes on the first lap. But like, what else do you expect the driver to do? You know, you have to overtake on the first lap. And we don't always see it, but we do see the likes of Kimi Räikkönen and stuff like that. Alonso, for example, usually have races every now and then where they're just like, okay, obviously nobody knows what to do here, and they end up taking out about 10 people on the first lap. Not 10 exactly, but they're very effective. We have a little bit of wind apparently now. A couple of drivers are complaining about the wind. Stroll, decent performer in qualifying the last year or two, in a somewhat decent car, looks to push now and hopefully make it into Q3. Stroll, Leclerc, Sainz, Ocon, Ricciardo, Gasly, Alonso, and Tsunoda all make up the bottom half of the table at the moment. Verstappen is still first. It's second and third for the Mercedes. Giovinazzi is just hanging on in there, I guess. Leclerc looks like he set a time, but he didn't really improve. He goes above. No, he hasn't set a time yet. Okay, perfect. So the top 3 are separated by about 0.7 of a second. Giovinazzi's back in the pits. He's about a second off the pace there of the leader so far. Russell's about a second and a quarter off the pace, and Norris is pretty much just behind him there. Stroll looks to push now in the last sector to make a decent lap here. P13. And he goes P6, which is pretty decent. So Ocon, Gasly, Alonso, Tsunoda, still no times set. They are the bottom 4 at the moment. Leclerc and Sainz both pushing now to see what they can do. You would expect a somewhat decent qualifying performance out of them, even with how things have been so negative for them lately. You would expect them still to turn up and get the job done on this pretty new circuit, and, well, very new circuit. Very experimental qualifying session. Leclerc is P9 at the moment. That will be 1 from the drop zone, 1 safe from the drop zone in a couple of minutes. And he goes second with a 1:09. He's about 0.3 off the pace. Sainz goes P5. Gasly, again, stamps his authority on this racetrack, stamps his authority on the F1 community as he goes P3 in front of both Mercedes. Alonso has finally left the pits now, and he's about a second off the pace. He just got pipped there for 7th place by his teammate Ocon, and we have 2 McLarens in the red zone at the moment. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to lose another 5 drivers from this session, and then we will decide the top 10. So Ricciardo does well to get out of the bottom 5 there. He's gone P6. The driver at risk is Antonio Giovinazzi, as he has Russell, Stroll, Norris, Latifi, and Tsunoda beneath him. He will be looking to go out there and hopefully do another lap. The likes of Russell, Stroll, and Norris, and even Tsunoda, I mean, Giovinazzi is the driver that you would expect to lose here, to lose out in Q2. Good. So Perez again there, doing really well week in, week out, obviously trying to secure himself a position for next year. So hopefully he will do that, and hopefully we'll have a good race tomorrow. But in terms of qualifying sessions, he's done very well the last couple of weeks. So it's back in the pits. Ricardo is about 7 tenths, 8 tenths off the pace. Ocon and Alonso are similar, just a slight more off the pace there. Verstappen, very cool, collected customer at his home Grand Prix, of course. Russell is on an outlap. Alonso's on an inlap. And Latifi is also on an outlap. So we'll see how this session develops over the next little while. We got 5 minutes, about 5.5 minutes left till the end of Q2. So of course, Nicholas Latifi has never outqualified Russell, and he looks like he is about to push for a lap now. No, we're looking at the 63 car of George Russell. So we'll have to see how he gets on. Most likely in Q3, but you never know. About 1.5 seconds off the pace at the moment. Stroll, we have 5 minutes to go in the session, folks. 5 minutes to go in the session. Latifi is, I think, pushing for a lap at the moment, and Sonoda is the bottom so far. So obviously he's the rookie this year, and obviously this is a very difficult track for everybody. So you can imagine how it's probably quite difficult for poor El Sonoda. Russell is giving it a fair lash though. He goes green. He's a tenth and a half quicker there in the first sector than his previous time. So he's a little bit of an improvement to really jump the order. He is in 11th at the moment. Giovinazzi is still the driver at risk. Latifi has gone green in the first sector. Norris is still in the red zone. So Russell has improved his lap by about 2 tenths, which is going to put him, maybe about P7. It's a big spin from Russell. And he's put it into the wall. Unfortunately, he has put it into the wall, and red flag already, lads. Red flag already straight away. Well, very fast part of the track there. So, and it looks like Russell might have got away with that. The barriers did him very well there. He looks like he slammed the car rearward. He totally spun it and put the rear of the car into the wall, but it doesn't look like he's even going to be out of qualifying at the moment. We're going to have team radio here. Okay, they're going to check the car for damage. Obviously, the likelihood that there is some damage on that car is probable. It's highly likely. We'll just see what happens here. That was so fast, and he's slow. He manages, wow. That was a pretty decent impact there, but it looks like the car might have just got away with it. He goes backwards, good 100 feet or so, and yeah, so there's a lot of very important winglets, delicate parts to that rear wing, delicate parts to the car as a whole, but it looks like he just got away with it majorly in terms of damage there. Did look like the wheels took most of the impact. Russell team radio saying he pushed it too hard. That's understandable, George. You're doing a good job. But the car is in the garage now. We have a red flag. The session is stopped. And George is out of the car. So looks like they're hugs all around for Russell anyway, which is looks like he's pretty much a serious fan favorite there so far. And he's well liked by his team, which is a very important thing to have, a relationship to have with your team. So it's interesting to see, I suppose, how the team dynamic will change over the next couple of months, as Russell apparently knows already whether he's going to Mercedes, and apparently also Bottas has been told, obviously, but they're not allowed to announce the result, or they're not allowed to announce that decision. That's up to the teams to do that. So it's a little bit of bullshit. George Russell is back in the 63 cars, ladies and gentlemen, and with this red flag session so far, Antonio Giovinazzi has managed to cling on to 10th place, and he still has not been knocked out of the top 10 into the drop zone. However, he did pull off a brilliant lap in Q1, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Will he be in Q3? We'll have to wait and see. So George Russell red flagged the session there. He is in P11 at the moment. He will still be looking to push for getting out of Q2. So George Russell, I mean, you can't really say he did anything wrong there. He was probably just ever so slightly over the limit. So the session is still red flagged. We'll have a 5-minute warning, I believe, when it's going to start again. Breaking down George Russell's lap here. So the curbs, obviously here, the curbs. How difficult are they in other tracks? Very. How difficult are they in Zandvoort? We don't quite know yet. Yuki Tsunoda is another driver who seems to be underperforming at the moment. So yeah, as the race develops, as the race goes on, we're going to find out better corners. We're going to find out better lines through the corners. We're going to see drivers take different chances and stuff like that. So that will be very interesting to see as the race develops. At the moment, it looks like George was pushing a little bit hard there, clipped the curb, and spun the car around. So perhaps the curbs aren't exactly the nicest in Zandvoort, but they perhaps aren't the worst if you can take them on decently enough. So George Russell is still looking around the garage at the moment, and the front wing is off the car at the moment, so he's out of the car again. So there could be more damage than we thought there, folks. Unfortunately for George Russell, excuse me. Still has his helmet on. He still hasn't left the garage, so you never know what the story is there. Track sweepers are out on the track at the moment. So, as you know, folks, it's the bottom 5 that will be knocked out of Q2. Oh, excuse me. We have Russell, Stroll, Norris, Latifi, and I can't remember. Ricardo, I think. Sorry, Tsunoda. Perez on television now, again, a deflated Perez getting interviewed. Obviously not a fantastic weekend for him so far, but with the quicker car, one of the quickest car on the grid, you would expect he could possibly put on a decent performance tomorrow. And you never know. I'd imagine there's going to be a safety car tomorrow. Like, I imagine there could be 2 or 3 safety cars tomorrow. So somebody like Perez, highly experienced, able to stay out obviously for a very long time on tires and stuff like that. Brilliant at tire management and everything else. So, not all thrown away so far for him, but hopefully he will be able to actually get a result tomorrow. Excuse me, folks. I have a fit of the yawns here. So, do we have a 5-minute warning to begin the session yet? We don't, folks. We don't. We don't have a 5-minute timer just quite yet. And the Alfa Romeo crew blocking the cameras there of the garage, as it looks like there could be a small little bit of work going on in that car. His teammate for the weekend, of course, Robert Kubica, has been knocked out already in Q1. And a decent showing from both Ferraris in Q1 there. So hopefully they'll be able to pull something out of the hat towards the end of Q2. I mean, it's not as if they really have to. Leclerc's second. Sainz is P7 at the moment, with the 2 Alpines and Antonio Giovinazzi behind him in the top 10. Russell Stroll, not realistically, all of the cars in the bottom four or the bottom five, sorry, you would imagine would beat uh, Antonio Giovinazzi's car. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do anything. Verstappen very comfortable, obviously still, and Gasly very comfortable in P3 too. Verstappen very cool customer today. He's gone out and said about 2 laps, and he looks very very comfortable. The fire in my eyes. Don't waste your time on me. You're already the voice inside my head. Is it the voice inside my mind or the voice inside my head? You're already a voice inside my head. So, what are we thinking for the race tomorrow? Session will resume at 15:46 local time, ladies and gentlemen, which is a minute away, I believe. 40 is it 45? It's 46 right now, ladies and gentlemen. And we're gonna have go. And we're gonna have 30 seconds until the start of till the restart of Q2, ladies and gentlemen. The red flag is gone. There's a Williams ready to roll at the front of the pit lane, and there's still a lot of activity going on in the Alfa Romeo garage around Antonio Giovinazzi's Alfa Romeo car. It looks like Verstappen has left his garage. He is rolling down the pit lane to the red light at the moment, which will turn green momentarily. 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. We have an Aston Martin of Stroll, and we've got a McLaren leaving the garage too. So Verstappen not first on the track at the moment. The likes of Norris, Sonoda, Russell, really, it's tight. It's tight here to see if they can get a good lap in. As you have to as you understand, getting out on the track doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to have a good run or anything like that. So very unpredictable for us watching it when we don't have the information that the likes of the engineers and stuff like that and the pit wall would have. The cars are leaving the pit lane exit very slowly to let the other car in front go further ahead so they have more room. A couple of cars basically stationary there as we wait to get this session underway. But again, 3 minutes to go is not an awful lot of time to get a lap in when you're panicking a little bit. The likes of Alonso, Ocon, Sainz is in 7th. I mean, he's not exactly safe with the likes of the people that are in the bottom 11, the bottom 5 of the 15 at the moment. So it's not Russell's car at the moment, the Williams that's out. It's Latifi. He's the first car in the running at the moment. And interesting point there made by the Sky Sports crew that why would Verstappen go and set another lap when he's already top of the timesheets? So Latifi is out there, ladies and gentlemen. He goes through corner 1 and turn 2, and he is trying to get out there and get in the top 10 position as the timer counts down to 2 minutes left in qualifying session number 2. We have 15 drivers left, ladies and gentlemen, and we are looking to bring it down to 10 so we can have a shootout for the top 10. Oh, we have another Williams, and it's a Tiffy round. And he's binned it. He has binned it, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to have another red flag here straight away as we just got underway. There's 1 minute and 38 seconds left, so it's Latifi bins it. Yeah, he's good. So he's all right, but we have another red flag session. We have another session red flagged here, ladies and gentlemen, for Q2. And it is one Williams out in Q2 for a red flag, and it is a second Williams out. And the session is over, ladies and gentlemen. It is over. And Nicholas Latifi, Tsunoda, Ricciardo. And that means Giovinazzi makes Q3. Oh my God. That means Giovinazzi makes Q3. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Russell, Stroll, Norris, Latifi, and Tsunoda. They are all knocked out because the session has been red flagged with 1 minute and 38 seconds left. So the FIA have made a decision to end the session, let the track be repaired however it needs to be, let the car be removed. But Q3 will continue after will be the next session to start. So Q2 is over, and we have lost those 5 drivers again: Russell, Stroll, Latifi, Norris, and Tsunoda. So Latifi's gone downhill here. Yeah, he just spun it. He just spun that baby round. He did. Puts a wheel on the dirt there, and he puts a wheel on the white line, followed by a pretty decent turn in there. He had a car on the inside, which probably doesn't help him, but a decent bit of damage there to the Williams. And he just lost it. He lost it on the turning for sure. Bit of a strange one, that. And it looks like it was Hamilton that was the car on the inside. Ooh, Lord, baby, please don't go. So Latifi is out of the car. He's fine. And so his gearbox will have to be replaced there probably, unless it's all right. Lando Norris again, the big name, knocked out. So with Zandvoort, I believe they have a very cool system set up where they have like a lot of cranes around the track, and they're pretty much able to just lift the cars up at any place. Excuse me. So looks like we're going to have slightly quicker track clearances while being able to get back racing quicker, which would be a very important thing here, considering that, as you can see, once a car goes off the track and is stationary, they can't continue to race. They have to clear the track. So that's good for us. And of course, it means that the times in between safety cars will be shortened. And I'd imagine, as I said, that there will be a couple of safety cars tomorrow. As we can see, there's been 2 red flags in one session already. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to Q3 after this, which will mean we have the top 10 shooting it out for grid position. Antonio Giovinazzi is still in there. The Ferraris, the Mercedes, Verstappen, not Perez, unfortunately, and not Robert Kubica or anything like that, because they all got knocked out in Q1. I got a fit of the old yawnings. I got a fit of the hiccups yesterday, which was probably worse. But hope everybody's good. If you're listening back to this at a later date, I hope you enjoyed the race. You enjoyed the race and everything else. Hope you enjoyed the qualifying session. And what are your predictions anyway? Make sure to let me know in the comments and stuff like that. Do you think that it was unfair for the session to be stopped there with 1 minute and 38 seconds left? I believe that's the rule. I think it's up to the discrepancy of the FIA if they want to stop a race when it's basically being, or they want to stop a session when there's not a lot of time left. So it's a top 10 shootout. A couple of regular names in there, a couple of unregular names. The Alpines will be looking to do well. The Alpines, excuse me. And is that Nicholas Latifi's car still on the track, or has it been moved? Looks like it's still on the track. So one Williams does something, and another Williams does something very similar very, very soon after. Russell's gone to the media to let them know what has happened. So obviously he couldn't continue there, unfortunately for him. Max will be dancing probably similar to me. Probably on the probably doing a little dance there because he's still P1 and looking very, very healthy for finishing on pole here. Looks like he has a little bit of damage on the rear suspension as well. He couldn't continue. A lot of mechanics getting a little bit of work over the night, over Saturday night. Carlos Sainz's team did very well, obviously, to get him back into qualifying. So it's not been confirmed yet that the session hasn't been restarted, but we're waiting for it to be confirmed. Russell talking good there, talking smart about a couple of different things. Of course, a lot of drivers that were knocked out and won't start the race in the top 10, the drivers that don't make it to Q3, they actually get free choice of tire for tomorrow's race. So that's obviously a slightly beneficial thing about not being in the top 10. So both Williams out there, and obviously George Russell's good friend Lando Norris is going to suffer because of that. So seems to be that the consensus is that Latifi seems to be that Latifi put a tire on the white line, which is notorious for was sorry, what was I saying there? Oh yeah, so putting a car on the white lines that surround the track and stuff like that, is supposed to be detrimental, especially in the wet. Now, as you can see, it wasn't wet there for Latifi, but even putting your wheels on the white line in the dry can be a very negative thing to do. So it looks like the Red Bull are on the radio to the FIA about Mercedes keeping their cars' tires in the blankets. They're keeping the tires warm, which apparently Red Bull were warned about, and a little bit of fucking children stuff going on between Mercedes and Red Bull the last couple of weeks. Um, So what are we looking forward to in terms of Q3? Antonio Giovinazzi has made it into Q3 before. Obviously, he finished seventh, I think, once. All right. As they're just doing minor repairs to the track side barrier there, so we can go racing again. Looks like they have big things, a sponge in front of the tire wall. Obviously, the tire wall that you see is usually tires filled with water to absorb the impact and stuff like that, and make sure the driver survives. But they have like an extra barrier on the outside of the tire wall, and between the tire wall and that barrier, they have like these kind of big, kind of spongy looking mats things. So probably why Russell's car got away with it there. Probably why it wasn't too badly damaged because of the good absorption of shock uh, from the wall there. So we're just waiting for Q3 to begin, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today on the show and the F1 TV Era podcast. My name is Tim Speed, of course. Is the TV rattling in there? Is the table rattling? No, I don't think right now. So will we get another red flag in Q3? Folks, I'm asking myself the same question. I'm asking myself the same question. If you're listening back to this, you already know. If you're listening back to this at another time, thank you very much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed the broadcast if you listened live, or if you didn't listen live and you're listening now, I hope it's okay for you. Obviously, this is the first live stream at the moment. Basically, I can't really get OBS software working on my laptop because it's not really the best laptop. However, if I can figure it out, perhaps there's a low specification setting and stuff like that, I can set it up on, and I'll be able to get like some music and some different things going on the screen and stuff like that. But that's not really important for now. I don't think the most important thing for now is bringing decent commentary content and stuff like that to the channel. Obviously, I have podcast available, F1 TV Era podcast on Spotify. If you want to give that a look and a listen, please feel free to do so. I'm not going to ask for a like or a sub unless you like it. If you do, give it a like and give me a follow. And if you don't, you obviously don't have to do anything like that. Looks like a decently sunny day in Zandvoort. It's pretty decently sunny where I am too. I hope you're getting on well where you are. It looks like the track might be ready to go here, folks. We could have the resumption of Q2, or we could have the start of Q3, depending on whether they decide to resume Q2. If they don't resume Q2, as I said, the likes of Lando Norris and Sonoda, Stroll as well, and the somewhat decent Aston Martin, they will be knocked out and they will start from the middle of the grid outside the top 10 tomorrow. Again, free choice of tire might be some consolation. Race control, ladies and gentlemen, Q3 will start at local time 7 minutes past 4. It is currently 2 minutes past 4. We have 5 minutes until it's a green light, and the boys in the Alfa Romeo garage have started to stand a little bit further away from that car, from the 99 car of Giovinazzi. It was the right front wheel there that they seem to be working on, but doesn't seem to be much going on right now. Just a small cooling fan on top of Antonio to keep him cool as he prepares to go out for Q3. He'll be looking to improve on his best grid position start of 7th, with the likes of Ricardo and Sonoda out of Q3. You would imagine that it makes it slightly easier for Antonio Giovinazzi to get a good finish. However, he still has to get out there and do it, you know. George Russell has been knocked out. Latifi was also knocked out, crashed out there. So unfortunately for Williams, not a very good weekend after a pretty decent weekend and a very strong qualifying session for them last week. Unfortunately, that they have had a very weak session this weekend. We have 4 minutes to go. We have a sea of orange people in the crowd. We have DJs playing. It looks like a bit of a fun time out in Zandvoort. So the moment of truth, or the session of the moment, can Max Verstappen put the Red Bull car on pole, and can anybody, even the likes of the Mercedes, can they come anywhere close? Of course, we have the incident with Mazepin pulling out there on Vettel to be investigated after the end of the race. Just looking at the replay on the television there, it was about it was about a second or so, a couple of meters or so from um, being a being a big enough accident there. You could have had 3 cars involved in that accident. So luckily that didn't go too bad, and everybody's okay. Of course, Vettel didn't get to finish Q2, sorry, Q1 in a decent position and go through to Q2. And I understand it's probably complicated and probably getting a bit boring, me saying all those Qs. But yeah, so Sebastian Vettel starting 17th tomorrow. So not exactly a good session from him. I love man. So can the McLaren? Sorry, can the it's Mazepin speaking. I have to say Mazepin's growing on me. I have to say Mazepin's growing on me. More his character than anything else. And he's not exactly done anything on the Grand Prix circuit that would warrant him to be to increase his driver level skill. He's still very much bottom of the barrel, but maybe he's trying. I don't know. It seems like he's trying. It seems like he's at least pretending that he's trying. So hopefully, he continues to do that after his kind of rocky start in F1. Of course, there was a couple of different controversial things that people didn't like, but you have to remember that mainly people don't like him as a racing driver because in F2 he had a terrible temper and was also pretty ridiculously um, aggressive and stuff like that, and did a lot of late defending and stuff like that on straights. So didn't exactly become a favorite within the pit lane from among among his fellow drivers. So that's obviously not a good sign when that happens. But hopefully he's going to continue to try and at least. I mean, he's got a seat in F1 for the next couple of years, so I would imagine it's probably better to start liking him because you're going to have to deal with him for a while. At the moment, that's the way it seems for sure. Anyway, so the Ferraris have been the most impressive in terms of the rest of the uh, in terms of the first couple of teams, the first fastest teams. Will they beat the Mercedes this weekend? That would be very interesting. That would be very good for the race, I'd say. And we have about 30 seconds to go here, folks. Again, Russell, Stroll, Norris, Latifi, and Tsunoda were all knocked out there. And no Aston Martin and no Williams anywhere near the top 10 there. So we have the Ferraris, we have the Mercedes, we have Gasly again, of course, week in, week out, a Q3 specialist. And Ricardo, obviously Norris, his teammate, is gone, but Ricardo looking to have a good qualifying session because, as we all know, he hasn't exactly suited the car last while, and he has kind of had a pretty terrible start to the season, if anything. So we got about 5 cars. I don't know. I fancy Gasly. I'm gonna say I fancy Gasly to do something here because obviously he's not very experienced at this track, and but again, nobody is. So I'm just saying that he's probably not ultimately comfortable. However, he's a very good driver who really does take a lot of chances, takes a lot of risks, but does so in a way that it doesn't really look like that. And he is someone that seems to be quite a cool customer 90% of the time. So what can Giovinazzi do? Where can the Alpines finish? Fernando Alonso was quite strong in practice. Not sure if he was anywhere near the pace in terms of qualifying pace. And we got a Red Bull going out there. We got 2 Alpines flying up behind them. We got a green light on the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen. Q3 is a go. It is a go. The Alpines will slow down so they have a little bit of clean air. The 2 Mercedes are behind the 2 Alpines, and the 2 Ferraris are behind the 2 Mercedes. Of course, we'll have a little bit of a delay here as those cars leave the pit lane because, as I said, they're going to want to have a little bit of clean air in front of them, and they're also going to want to have a little bit of space behind them just for their own comfort while the car behind obviously needs them to be way in front so that they can push and not have to worry about slowing down. We have 10 minutes and 14 seconds left on the clock, ladies and gentlemen, of Q3. And by the end of it, hopefully, if we don't have any red flags, we will have a pole position decided for tomorrow. We'll have a front row decided for tomorrow. We'll have the top 10 decided for the race at Zandvoort tomorrow for the Zandvoort GP 2021. 10 minutes to go. Verstappen, Leclerc, Gasly, Hamilton, Bottas, Ricciardo, Sainz, Ocon, Alonso, and Antonio Giovinazzi are the drivers who are out there looking to make a big impact, get temperature in the tires, get temperature in the brakes, and push on the next lap for their life to try and do well tomorrow. A sea of orange in the crowd again. Great to see it. Great to see the fans back in F1. Great to see a great following behind a brilliant driver like Verstappen. Obviously, 1 minute 9 seconds thereabouts was the time that he set for Q2, which was the benchmark. And can he put this car on pole? About 193 miles an hour there in the speed trap towards the end of the home straight. Pushes now into turns 2 and 3. I believe some of them are called 1B and 2B because they're kind of snaky turns through the track. This is a brilliant section now, the middle section, as he pushes to go purple in the first sector, obviously because he's the first driver to set a sector time. 23 seconds, 0.9, just under 24 seconds for the first sector. We will compare that to other drivers as they come and go. Obviously, the other drivers behind them are probably pushing at the moment. We said it was the Alpines behind Max and it was the Mercedes behind the Alpines. So we'll have those times coming up fairly soon. We've actually already got a car in front of Max Verstappen, which hopefully won't slow him down or anything. Verstappen is pushing hard here, ladies and gentlemen, as he's onto the last corner, onto the banked section. Hopefully flat out soon. 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. Can he beat his 1.9 and get it into the 1.8? He can with a 1 minute 8 seconds, 0.923, just under the. And Alonso goes second. But 2 seconds off the a second and a bit off the pace there. 1.2 seconds off the pace with a 1.10. Giovinazzi is 1.2 seconds off the pace. Ricciardo, 1.6. Probably not a major push from him just yet. Hamilton goes green. No red sectors yet, but no purple either as he makes the last corner. It's a 1.7. It's a 1.8. It's a 1.9.3, I think that came. 1.9.268. Bottas is just slightly ahead of Hamilton there. A couple of tenths and a couple of hundredths in that one. Alonso has dropped down to fourth after his second place. Leclerc puts his car in fourth now. Gasly, Sainz, no time, but Ocon, Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, and Alonso seem to be slightly struggling there in terms of being outside a second the gap is over a second from the first four. And it is Gasly there with a brilliant lap to beat both Ferraris and put his car on fourth. Fantastic stuff from Pierre this weekend. Yet again, a really good driver on a lot of form. Very interesting to see what he can do every week. So it's 0.3 of a second off first place at the moment is Bottas, who is in second, and Hamilton just slightly then again behind him. Verstappen's into the pits with a 1.8.9. There's 6 minutes left on the clock, ladies and gentlemen. Probably a short stop. They're not going to roll him back into the garage just yet. But they might do. So it's the top 5 that are separated by under a second, and it's the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th placed drivers at the moment who are above a second off the pace, off Verstappen's pace. But it is the pace, but obviously Verstappen's pace is quite quick compared to everybody else. Excuse me. It looks like they're rolling the Mercedes back into the garage. Ocon and Ricciardo, Giovinazzi and Alonso haven't exactly lit the Q3 timesheets on fire, but it is Pierre Gasly now who looks like he's having he's going to have an unpushed lap and he's coming into the pits. Okay, I thought he might go around for another one there. P4 for him, obviously enough at the moment. Alonso is in the garage. We have 5 minutes and 18 seconds left. Probably have another run or two from most drivers as they change wheels here. Obviously, a lot of thought going into it now about tires and stuff like that, and the tires that you have to be able to, um, you need to be able to use for the practice sessions and the qualifying sessions, but you also need to keep tires for the most important part of the weekend, which is the race. So discussions going on Sky Sports there about who's going to benefit from what. I'd imagine everybody's going to set times here on the red tire, which is the softest tire of the lot. And the softest tire, if you don't know, is the grippiest tire because it has more it's softer, so it can grip onto the tarmac and stuff like that better. We don't have any cars on track out at the moment, folks. All the cars are getting warmed up nice and toasty in the garages. Again, for the likes of Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, a knock on, I would say get out there and set a lap now because the likelihood of somebody pushing, the likelihood of the Mercedes, maybe Gasly, the likelihood of the of any car really, but the likelihood of a top car spinning off here out of no fault of its own, just simply because they're pushing, is very likely. And if you have a car out on the side of the track, on this track on Zandvoort, we're more than likely going to have a red flag straight away. So it will probably be, if the session ends in the next minute or so, it won't continue. The top 10 will be decided from that point. So we have 3.5 minutes left, and there's nobody out on track at the moment, which I find. I mean, I know this kind of happens, but like surely Antonio Giovinazzi. The cars are going out now with 3 minutes left. It looks like the Ferraris are leading the way. I think it looks like, yeah, the Ferraris are leading the way. We have Pierre Gasly then, and Ocon, and Antonio Giovinazzi leaving the pits now, with Alonso just behind. And it looks like the one, the only, Max Verstappen is leaving the pits as the Orange Army gets onto their feet to wave their man on and support him as he looks to make a serious impact this weekend on the first Dutch Grand Prix in 35 years. So I believe Piquet was the last person to set pole there in 1985. Mental. Max still sitting at the they're trying to fill the gap there. Max is still sitting at the pit exit there, just having a little complain on the radio there, which is fair enough. Max, he doesn't like to wait around too much. So yeah, the crowd is just there, like, and it's on. It's hard to see anybody that isn't wearing orange. I'm wearing a little bit of my orange this week, as you can see in the Netherlands. Orange thing. I have 2 of these t-shirts, so I'll be wearing the same t-shirt tomorrow for the race. Please join us here for the race, folks. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe or get in contact with the channel. Have a podcast every Tuesday on Spotify, which you can listen to for free and stuff like that. You don't need a Spotify Premium or anything like that. So please give it a listen if you can. Hovering around the 16 listener mark the last couple of weeks, and there's 4 or 5 episodes up there for you to enjoy. So that would be great. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 1 minute and 15 seconds left on the clock. Q3 is coming to a close. Qualifying is coming to a close. Overall, the order so far from 1 to 10 is Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Gasly, Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, and Esteban Ocon on the final grid position there in Q3. What can we expect here in the next couple of seconds? Will we have a mental end? Will we have anybody else display dominance and knock Max Verstappen off the first place position? Max Verstappen is out now for his lap, and he is going to push here big time. He has 1 minute and 8 seconds to beat Basically 1 minute 9 second time there. It was 9.23. Sorry, 8.23. 8.923. Huge high line there from Verstappen in that first of one of the banked corners there. Pushing now. 22 seconds for the first sector so far. He goes orange. Doesn't beat his fastest time. Hamilton is out now pushing. Leclerc is also pushing. Bottas, I think, sorry. Yeah, Bottas pushing. Leclerc is pushing. Hamilton is pushing. Sainz is pushing. Hopefully the gaps are all around the track are decent so that everybody can have an uninterrupted run. Hamilton doesn't go too high in that line, but not too badly at all. Gasly finishes. He doesn't have any time left to do another lap, and he is P4. Ocon is P7. Giovinazzi goes P7, knocks Ocon down to 8. Alonso is yet to set a time. Verstappen goes purple in the middle sector. Bottas and Hamilton both green. Sainz and Leclerc Verstappen goes across the line, and he makes pole, ladies and gentlemen. Beats his time ever so slightly. Bottas goes now green sector for sector 1, green sector for sector 2. No purple sectors. He's on the last corner of his try here. Is he going to be able to beat Max Verstappen? It's unlikely, and he doesn't. He goes half a second over. Hamilton is the only person now. He's green sector 1. He's green sector 2. He's on the last corner here. Can he dethrone Verstappen? No, he can't. He goes purple in the last sector, but it's P2 for Hamilton. It's P3 for Bottas. And the Ferraris have yet to set a time. It's not coming up that they set a time now. But the celebrations go wild. The crowd goes wild because their man, Max Verstappen, has done it. He came, he dominated, and he will start on pole, ladies and gentlemen, for tomorrow's Grand Prix. So we have Giovinazzi, who matched his best ever qualifying in 7th. Ocon, very decent again in 8th. And Alonso in 9th, with Ricciardo a lukewarm 10th. Ferrari in 5th and 6th behind Gasly, who, again, absolutely brilliant performance from Gasly. Fantastic stuff from him. Ladies and gentlemen, qualifying has ended. The party has started, and the party is going to start again right here on this channel tomorrow, folks. Please tune in if you're interested, and if you want to check out the race, but you don't have the chance to watch it or whatever, log on to the channel, and I'll look after you, folks. Thank you very much for joining me this Saturday's beautiful Saturday for qualifying. I appreciate it. This is F1 TV Era. My name is Tim Speed, and I'm going to talk to you tomorrow here, folks. Have a good Saturday and enjoy yourself. Be safe, and remember to join me tomorrow. Take it easy. I'll talk to you next time.